Hi everybody, I wanted to share with you something I learned at a conference that I just went to. I went to Myrtle Beach. Suddenly, out of the blue, I went to a digital forensics conference that is primarily for law enforcement folks. So why the heck did I go there? It's because I wanted to know more about GrayShift. So what the heck is GrayShift? GrayShift first came across my radar screen a couple weeks ago when we got a phone sent from a police department that was a dead motherboard. So we did what we do and make dead motherboards come back to life, sent it back to the police department. But like all data recoveries, we say for question number one, do you know the passcode? Because if you don't know the passcode, then we've always said there's no chance for data. However, that has changed. So there is a tool from the GrayShift company, and I got their t-shirt. Well, these guys are actually kind of mean because they are super, super sharky, and they are making a tool for law enforcement only, and they will absolutely not even talk to anybody that is not in a law enforcement relationship. So what GrayShift has done is they have made a key, a little box called GrayKey that will, and I watched them do it, it will unlock a passcode locked iPhone. So for me, that's amazing because we get so many calls from, distressed grandmothers with all of the grandkids' pictures, and the grandkid locked them out and disabled their iPhone. We get so many really, really sad calls from distressed parents with a kid that commits suicide, and they just really want to see that phone and see what that last day was like. And I hoped that something like GrayKey could help them, but that is not happening unless there is a court order. So when I went down there, what I learned about law enforcement was really amazing. And one of the things that I thought was the coolest was a presentation from Celebrite. So Celebrite is the industry leader over there. And Celebrite has this new thing, super expensive. This is one of these rare times where I actually felt like, hey, this is so important it should be free. This was amazing. This was Celebrite making a tool called Celebrite Analytics that is for law enforcement. But it's amazing. If you imagine, what is it like to be a detective these days? What is it like to do law enforcement where you have cases where there might be dozens of phones and computers and hard drives and just this overload of information. So I love this product where it would sort of automatically find all these linkages. Like you could just dump in all these phones and say, find any picture of a weapon, find any picture of drugs, figure out who talks to who, and make a little map. It was phenomenal. And they had all of these stories of locations and connections between people. It was all pattern recognition of large data sets for solving crimes. And it was incredible, especially when you talk to the law enforcement community. That shit is dangerous. They are really amazing people, and I really like going to that conference. But in order to get this kind of information to put into something like the analytics software, you have to be able to get into these phones. So GrayKey has really made a huge difference. And like I said, they will not even look in your direction. Like literally, once they realize you're not law enforcement, then they won't even make eye contact. I mean, they are serious about this not falling outside of the law enforcement hands. So GrayKey, how does it work? What the heck is it? So let's click over to this. Let's click over here to this disgusting article. All right, so here's an article. I really don't like this article because this bothers me. This idea of taking away things like the amazing ability to solve crimes like we never have before. That breaks my heart. Who thinks it's a good idea to value personal security against really bizarre, obscure situations that are never going to happen over common situations like let's be able to see what's going on inside a phone that we have a search warrant for that has information that could save lives when lives are at risk. The idea of us kind of advocating that we value our own security and pushing for tools that make things like GrayKey not work, I think stinks. So let's learn about how does GrayKey work ish. So what it does is some magic. It is literally a magical black box. It is black box. So it looks like this thing. So here it is. And you can take a phone that is locked with a passcode, and that can be a 4-digit passcode, a 6-digit passcode, or an alphanumeric passcode. Depending on how complex the passcode is, it will take a varying amount of time for this thing to just do some magic and come up with the passcode for the device. Then the device is unlocked. You can see all the data and dump all the data into the extraordinary tools that the law enforcement community have for finding those connections. I would vote for, who thinks that this should be available with some sort of access control to, the Apple Store? Me. Who thinks that this should be available to any kind of certified entity of civil consultants, to every courthouse? You could go down, if you could prove ownership of a phone that was disabled, you're allowed to plug it into GrayKey. I mean, this is fantastic. It's this idea that we need to throw away the the content of every phone of every person who commit suicide and left their families in the lurch to protect them. I'm not sure about that. I think we should need to talk about this. All right, what's going on over here in chat? Pulls tin foil cap down. It's for safety, Jessa, because of all the people at the CIA that are spying on you. That argument drives me crazy. The idea that anyone gives a crap about your data. But let's look and see what this thing is. So here's the box. You plug it in, and then it will sit there and chug along, and then it will come up with a passcode. And that'll take kind of a long time. So if you have a 6-digit passcode, that can take days. And if you have a alphanumeric passcode, it could take, even longer. So if you really care about your data, just make a really difficult, complex passcode. Most criminals probably don't. I certainly don't. So I think that there's already, you can enable two-factor authentication if you want to on your device. There's lots of things that you can do if you really, really care about security. But this goes on to talk about, who should we trust? Most people in the U.S., you should trust law enforcement. But what if, when law enforcement goes bad and you can't trust them? So we can't let this exist. We cannot have easy ways to save our resources so that our law enforcement professionals can quickly figure out what's going on in a case, can quickly put heroin rings out, who can quickly put together, the track of a some kind of a serial criminal. Nope, we can't have that. We can't have any kind of making their job any easier. Because of what? Let's articulate the risk here. And that's what I think is really important. What are we afraid of with taking away tools like GrayKey? With GrayKey around, worst case scenario, what could happen here? Let's talk about it. What could happen? My phone here, if GrayKey is around, means that I could leave it on this chair and walk away. Somebody could take it. And then they could do what? They could take it, and they would then have to go to someone that had a GrayKey. They would have to pay money, probably a lot of money, in order to unlock it and see what's on my phone. And then they would be able to do what? They would be able to get my Apple Pay and bank information. Well, you could just cancel those credit cards. It's just, they would be able to see pictures of, my Christmas tree and some, what the beach looked like at the hotel at this place. You know, it's just kind of, for most people, it just seems like not a whole lot different than, you know what else I allowed today in security? I allowed a dude to come into my house and fix my dryer. You know what was wrong with it? This is more embarrassing than anything else. There was a sock trapped in the blower of my dryer. And he had to come out for a house call and come into my house. So he's seen the inside of my house. Ooh, and he, knows where I live and knows what's inside my house. And he could take pictures and he could, come back and steal stuff. So what? He's a professional, and I'm just not worried about that. I think we should trust professionals to be professional, and we should accept that there's always going to be some bad apples in any profession. There's always going to be some rate of bad shit that happens. Bad shit happens at some rate. There's nothing you can do about that. But I think being overly cautious, and saying I'm never going to fix my dryer because I can't let anybody come in my house is silly. I don't think that you could say if you lock yourself out of your minivan, buy a new minivan, because you can't hire somebody to come unlock your minivan. Oh, they could then then there would be people that were walking around able to pick locks. Oh my God, that means they could get into any car. That would be terrible. We would have no security. People could just get into cars and drive them away if this technology of being able to, change locks, if we let there be a profession where somebody could just come and change the locks. Oh my God, can you imagine? Wait, we do have that profession, and that's been cool for, years and years and years and years. So that's what I don't get. All right, so let's talk about, why are we making a video? Why are we calling this? Is Gray Shift dead on arrival already? I mean, most of us just found out about this. Maybe it's not. We're not sure. I'm going to show you what's up with this USB restriction. But for you guys, one thing I learned at the conference is that if iOS 12 includes USB restriction, either the 7-day flavor or the 1-hour flavor, then it's going to be really important for you microsolderers that are out there in the world to take a few minutes and go connect with your local law enforcement guys. Because the GrayKey is really systemic. Pretty much everybody has it. This thing just launched in March. It is now June. And if you walked around that conference, hey, did you guys buy a GrayKey? Oh yeah. Oh, not us, but we're going to as soon as we get the money next month. I mean, it's ubiquitous. So these guys are going to need our help. They're going to need the help of hardware folks, hardware professionals for any kind of criminal phone that was at the bottom of the lake. You can really make a difference here by connecting with your law enforcement. It's a very natural partnership. These guys are fantastic moms and dads in your community that are working really hard and oftentimes putting themselves in harm's way. I was blown away by some of these scary stories these guys had. So definitely go out and connect with your local law enforcement and just see if you can help. So this case that we did worked out great, where this was it was a homicide case that we were able to help, and it feels really good to be able to contribute to keeping things legitimately safe around here by supporting the people that are professionals at keeping all of us safe. That's what we should be doing for security, is supporting the professionals whose job it is to keep us safe. That's my opinion. So what's up with the USB restriction? And that is this. So let's take a look at, let me wake up the old hand camera. All right, wake it up, hand camera. Wake it up, hand camera. All right. Jessa sounds like she believes in the safe back doors in encryption. No, I don't believe it. Jessa believes in having opt-in security. That's what I believe in. I believe in no security unless you choose to opt in. I don't like forced security at all. I don't like that. I don't like being encumbered by someone else's idea of what's safe for me. That's disgusting to me. It's my freedom to choose to choose what level of security I want to have. So I do not like forced security whatsoever. All right. Nothing. It's just that Jessa has one. What, a locksmith? Let's see. locksmiths are regulated, and often that is not true. Certainly not in the UK. I remember looking this up back when like Error 53 stuff was around. You do not have any kind of regulation or security or any kind of certification required to be a locksmith. I think it was in the UK. Alrighty, so let's see. DCSD cable. I'd like to see how it works with iOS 12 USB restrictions. Tell me what that is. I am not really sure. It isn't forced. Don't buy an iPhone. I don't want to be told what I can and can't buy. I'm going to make that decision myself. All right, here we go. This is a phone that is on iOS 12. Spooky, spooky, spooky with the green screen filter. And then this is a phone, this is my regular phone that's on iOS whatever. Probably something not updated because I hate updating. I like to not update, ever. So let's see, I think I did have to fairly recently. 11.1, boo! Yeah, so 11. All right, so 11.1, so that's a while ago, a little bit. Now let's look at what happens with this, regular iPhone. How can we see that? There we go. Let me move this over. Alrighty. Okay, so let's plug this thing in to charger. So this is my regular iPhone on regular iOS 11.1 that's going to be really familiar to us. So here's a USB ammeter that's going to show us what happens when we try to charge. And oh my God, you guys can all see the notification that Judy Meacham uploaded some photos to Facebook. Oh my God, security's been breached. Oh God. All right, plugging this in, and we can see that this phone can charge. So this is normal charging. And now I have Sam's phone. So this is Sam's phone, and Sam's phone I updated to iOS 12 earlier today, and then I let it sit for an hour with the passcode lock in place. So it is, you can see the little lock. It is locked, and I have not entered the passcode for over 1 hour. It actually was less than 1 hour on the dot, because I remember checking in on it a few minutes shy of 1 hour, and it had already locked. All right, so let's see what happens when we ask it, can you charge? Now, hopefully it can still charge. That would be pretty overreaching. Can you charge? And the answer is yes. So this phone is charging just like my phone, and it has a little lightning symbol that shows us that it's charging. All right, so both phones can charge. Now let's take my phone, and we're gonna ask it, hey, can you connect to iTunes? So we'll listen for that iTunes connection sound, and we'll look to see what does the phone do. So this is my phone, should be able to talk to iTunes. All right, so you guys can hear the computer recognizes it, even though it is locked. And if we, I'm not sure we can click over and see that. Yep, so it's just, so iTunes is recognizing it and saying, do you want to communicate with iPhone 10? All right, and if we do that a couple times, that will always be the same. All right, so now let's try Sam's iPhone. And if we plug in Sam's locked iPhone, it buzz, 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 and it's got a special new note. USB accessory notification. Unlock iPhone to use accessories. Let's try that again. Unlock iPhone, and it does not make the little, green lightning symbol. And right now, this phone would not be charging. So that kind of stuff. This would be really annoying to me if I had just clicked update and I had no idea to expect this. And then I plugged my phone into my MacBook to charge overnight, and it went buzz, buzz, buzz. I might not recognize that that's abnormal and think it's charging and then go to bed, and it's not charging. So what do I have to do in order to get this thing to turn back on and be recognized by iTunes? I need to simply enter the passcodes. That's all. I need to unlock it. So why is this a big deal? It's not a big deal because it's not a big deal for the most part. We could probably sit here and guess some scenarios that would be potentially impacted, that might be kind of mildly annoying. So, but nobody's going to be, I don't think anybody's going to be annoyed to the point that they're going to go out of their way to turn this off, which is an option. You can go hunt. This is by default enabled, which I can't stand. Opt in. I don't want to have to opt out. So it's by default, you have to opt out of this if you don't want to have USB restriction. So why do this? Why, wonder what scenario does it make sense to have Sam's iPhone not talk to iTunes? And the only scenario that this is designed for is to protect you, ladies and gentlemen, from the evil law enforcement people that could take your phone with a search warrant and crack the passcode by plugging it into something like the GrayKey device. The GrayKey device would, in theory, not be recognized. Now, it's a little bit sketch, though, because if you say, well, does that mean this phone doesn't go into recovery? Like, can it not recognize, what happens if I put it in recovery? Let's try it. Let's try it. So I'm doing a power and home, and we're going to let it wake up in recovery mode. I'm waiting for that Apple logo. Alrighty, so I'm holding down the home button. What? So now it should be in recovery with the little iTunes logo, but it looks like it's in DFU. So if I disconnect, what? And if I click over and look at iTunes, iTunes says, there's a problem with the iPhone that requires it to be updated or restored. So it is in recovery mode as expected. So iTunes will recognize it in recovery mode. So is this whole deal really that much of a deal breaker for the GrayKey tool? I don't know, maybe not. Maybe it's not a big deal at all, because it can certainly communicate with the phone if the phone is in DFU mode. So I have no idea, and I don't think anybody knows how the GrayKey tool works, and that's all their biz, but I just thought that was kind of interesting. Let's ask the question, what happens if we wake it back up now? So the phone is able to talk to iTunes in recovery mode. So I'm going to do a hard reset and wake it back up. Will it wake back up normal? I don't know. Let's see. Apple believes in security. Yes, they do. All right. Apple cares about security. Rather, have people need to opt out of good security rather than opt in. Let's see. Yep, cops try and put you in jail. You want to stay out. Why help them? Cops don't try to put innocent people in jail. In fact, I had my very first experience with this fairly recently. For the very first time and only time in my life, I was able to check off my bucket list item of getting arrested. So here comes Sam's phone back up. Now let's see what happens, and then I'll tell you about getting arrested. All right, so even after rebooting it, it still wants me to enter the passcode. It will no longer talk to iTunes in normal mode here, and it's giving me that accessory thing. All right, let's see what happens if we enter. Let's go ahead and enter Sam's passcode and see if it kind of automatically recognizes it, or if we have to unplug. Nope. So it instantly and automatically. Oh. Trust. Yep, so I had never trusted that computer before, so it's asking for the passcode to trust that. All right, so no, cops do not try to put innocent people in jail at all. I got arrested. Here's what happened. I was picking up Mark from the airport a few months ago, and the airport, when you're at arrivals, it's just super crowded, and everybody is is just driving 1 mile an hour, and you're watching everybody moving, and there's lights flashing, and there's people everywhere, and you're looking for the person, and there's traffic, and you're trying not to hit anything. I'm in a giant truck, and I see Mark up ahead, and I'm just cruising along 1 mile an hour, and Officer Douchebag pulls me over, and he pulls me over by like waving or something, because we're going 1 mile an hour. Do you have any idea why I'm pulling you over? No. And then he condescendingly tells me to look behind me at the octagon-shaped item and take a guess. So he was the condescending guy. And I told him, you're being really condescending and it's inappropriate. You can do your job without being a total jerk. So he wrote me a ticket, which is totally fine. But my intent was to go and appear for that ticket and just kind of say, hey, this guy's a real douche. But instead, what I did was I took the ticket, put it, in the middle part of the truck, and totally forgot about it. And months went by. It gets to be winter around here. Nothing happens, and the car got a flat tire, and it sat in the driveway for like 6 months, for all of winter. Finally, spring comes. Take the car, get it fixed, and get it inspected and ready to go. And I'm driving from my shop to home, and the car, apparently, the inspection sticker, I had to go pick up. So it had to clear a code and then get the sticker. So it had the prior year's inspection, although it was inspected. So the guy pulls me over, and he says, so what's up with this car not being inspected? And we chat. And then he asks me if there's anything that I would like to tell him about, before he runs my license. And I tell him, I got a ticket from this guy at the airport months ago, which I'm only now remembering. I did nothing about. So I went, so he's like, okay, comes back, and he's like, ma'am, you need to step outside the car, because my license was suspended for not answering the ticket at all. So I'm like, okay, well, I've got all of these, kids at home that are waiting on me, because I told my husband that I was going to be leaving home, and I would be home in 10 minutes. So he went ahead and went to work. He works at the hospital, and he had to take a call. And so the guy's like, okay. So I asked him, so he's like, I'm going to have to put you in handcuffs. Oh, okay. Wow. That's first. All right. I'm like, can I call home and just kind of like make these kids aware that, that this isn't going to be 10 minutes? And he's like, well, how are your kids pretty responsible? How old are they? Well, they're 7, 11, and 13. He's like, well, 13-year-old, is he responsible? Well, he's a boy, so, not really. So I call my kids, and it's kind of taking a while to get through to them. And so the guy's like, all right, I'm not gonna put you in handcuffs, and I'm not gonna take your phone. So just get in the car. You got to get in the back of the car. And I did. And then he says, he comes around and he asks me all of these questions, which were some strange questions, like the way they were worded. Like one of them was like, how far'd you go in school? How far'd you go in school? What, like second base? Like, what are you talking about? I got a PhD. Oh, okay. And then he's like, kind of recognizes that this is I don't have anything else going on as far as a record, and let's just take that off. And he ended up writing me, like a ticket, which for not answering the first ticket, which then I went and talked to the judge, super nice lady, and she was like, yeah, don't worry about it. Make sure you address the first thing and this goes away. Don't worry about it. But it was funny because he's like, I'm going to have to drive you. I'm going to give you a courtesy ride back home since you can't drive. Okay. And then I'm like, can I ask you for a favor? Can you go get the groceries out of the minivan and stick them in the back of the cop car with me? And he was like, all right, we'll go get the groceries. So he comes, he lets me out. I mean, this guy's super nice. I mean, it couldn't have been a nicer time of getting arrested. You know, go around the front. Here, you carry the Diet Coke and some of these bananas. All right, I'll get this. And then shove them all in the backseat of the cop car. And then he gives me my courtesy ride home. And I asked him on the way, can we please do the sirens and the lights? He said no, which I thought was kind of sad. So then he got home, and then I asked him if he would take a selfie, and he was like, all right, you know. So I took a selfie of the guy that was arresting me. It was a great experience. It was like a super fun story. I loved getting arrested. It was a really fun thing to do. No, you know, this is in response to, you know, I'm not going to help the police. Why not? They're there to protect and serve. You know, I mean, the stories that these guys were saying about how they really put themselves in harm's way, you know, and I cannot imagine not wanting to help out. I doubt GrayKey is only selling these devices to the US. They are only selling it to the US and are probably selling them to, nope, they're not, Greg M. Absolutely not. I mean, they would not even talk to me as soon as, and I'm telling them, hey, I am your natural ally, because here's your customer who wants to be happy with your product, and nobody knows how long this product's going to last. And when they have hardware devices that need hardware repair, they need to be connected immediately to somebody that can help them with hardware repair. That's us. And they're like, we don't care. You're not law enforcement. Get out. In fact, they had hired, what I thought this was pretty funny. They had hired an armed guard to guard their stuff at the law enforcement conference, where everybody there is in law enforcement. Everybody there is either, you know, some sort of investigator, policeman, detective, FBI, you know, and in case those guys are going to just riot, they had hired an armed guard. Specifically, I understood from the rumor mill that it was in case there were folks from other countries that wanted to just kind of grab this stuff. I think I will buy the first generation iPhone. Yes. Since DFU doesn't use any of the logic of CPU and TriStar. Well, let's see. Why don't people understand that your personal information does not have to be interesting in order to be mass collected and analyzed? Why don't people understand that that some people don't give a shit about that? I mean, that's what I don't get. I mean, I spent my career as a graduate student looking at massive data sets of gene expression data, trying to look for what is signal versus noise between these two massive data sets, where you're looking at all these amazing tools to compare two giant piles of numbers versus another giant pile of numbers. And it's really, really hard. But the idea of one of the data points caring what the ones and zeros were is ludicrous to me. I don't understand this. I don't understand it at all. Especially this idea of like, what if, you know, Google's listening to what you type, or what if Alexa hears what you're talking about? Good. You think you can get away and have an ad-free life? Good luck with that. If you can't have an ad-free life, I would like for Google to say, hey, Jessa, you know, from your demographics and the analysis that we've done on your data, we think that you would be interested in the Instapot. I mean, it's pretty amazing. It does the steam, and you can also saute at the same time. Check it out. Thank you. I love the Instapot. You are right. It is an amazing thing. And you know, I would have never known about the Instapot if you hadn't lumped me in with all of these chicks on Pinterest that love the Instapot. Thank you, Google. You are doing a great job. Keep going. Keep seeing what other things that you can lump me in together with. And I am happy to contribute. I'm absolutely happy to contribute. Like the people that are like all anti-ancestry.com and the DNA stuff. What the heck? You know, what I loved about 23andMe is this, again, it's opt-in. Who thinks that we should, you know, who wants to get away from all of the HIPAA and privacy of your DNA, and instead, who wants to to volunteer to say, yeah, absolutely, use my entire genome to see if you can come up with any kind of interesting correlations. Just the funniest stuff, like why do some people smell the asparagus pea smell and other people don't? Like, what's up with that? Yeah, I'm a asparagus pea smeller. Put me in that category. See what you can come up with. Opt in, totally opt in. All right, love that. Okay, I think. Let's see. Now, is that being arrested or was that being detained? No, it was being arrested. You didn't get arrested. Yeah, I did. That does not count. What are you talking about? No sirens, no lights. Not worth. I know. I was very bummed out about that. What I was more bummed out about is that he let me keep my phone, so I had my phone and I was taking a picture from the back seats and like texting my team like, hey, guess where I am? And and the speed limit as him driving me home was 55, and he had a digital speedometer. It said 57, so I tried to like take a picture of the cop speeding while I was in the back, but it didn't really work out. All right. All right. All right, so what I wanted to do this stream about was to just kind of see whether or not iOS12 had USB restriction, which it does, and it is right now, it's the 1 hour kind, which I think is sad and ludicrous. I don't think that is going to protect anyone from a goddamn thing, and it is going to actively, at least make it a pain in the ass for the folks that are in the cat and mouse game. I mean, I would like to think that as a society we could agree that putting our resources towards making our world safer by enabling law enforcement investigators to be able to have as much the easiest time as they can to find connections between folks that are doing awful shit in our communities. I can't fathom that folks aren't behind that. And I would like to see more opt-in security so that, I mean, it's great. There's nothing wrong with caring very deeply about security. There's nothing wrong with that. There's a lot of great tools that you can use for security, for personal security. I'd like to see those be opt-in and less of the same old Apple heavy-handed forcing me to have to enter the passcode if I want to charge my phone on the laptop at night. It just is annoying, or having to figure out how to turn that off. I don't think that that putting roadblocks in the way of law enforcement is a good idea at all. And the other message is for you guys that are local microsolderers that are capable of making, toilet phones, lake phones, dead phones. If you're capable of using the information from my channel and from everywhere around, if you are a microsolderer in the community, reach out to your law enforcement because things have really changed in their community this year. These are fantastic people, moms and dads just like you in your community trying to keep things safe, and they need your help. So it's a really, really natural relationship to make, to do what you can to help keep your community safe. And, with more people that kind of care about these things, to kind of hopefully send a message that we think that having this kind of technology available for law enforcement is important. And if Apple thinks it's too risky, that's fine. Then make the other avenues to get the same information more accessible, more easy, more readily available, and help them some other way. All right, that's it for today. I will see you next time.